everybody, it's Susie. Welcome to my craft room. Today I wanted to talk to you about fussy cutting and which scissors to use. I've seen a lot of people comment on folks that use the long scissors to fussy cut. They say, oh, I could never ever use the long scissors. And so they tend to use the shorter scissors, and some even shorter than this, to cut with. What I want to say is using long scissors, you have more cutting area. And so just remember, you own the whole piece of scissors. I mean, the whole thing. We tend to only use the very first part, and then we just keep adjusting our scissors to move along. I encourage you to move your paper and not so much your scissors, and to use the whole part of the blade. Of course, long cuts are much easier to do, with the big scissors, and you just, cut along, and then once you get to where you can't cut anymore, then when you get to the corner, turn your page, and then you get to the next one and turn your page, and you just cut along. And when you do that, you start and stop less. By starting and stopping less, you don't have as many opportunities to create divots or uneven cuts, because every time you stop, you have the potential to move your scissors. And the best recommendation that I can make is just keep moving your paper rather than your scissors. And when you get to a corner, just turn your paper, and you end up with a much cleaner, straighter edge than is if you were to, you can see where I turned this corner here and adjusted my scissors, there's a little piece missing. Well, maybe you can see, I don't know if you can or not. Let me see. You can see that there's a little piece, little chunk right there that I messed up on because I adjusted, my scissors on that. So I'm going to get one of these labels out and kind of show you on this, because this is obviously a much finer cut. Alright, so I'm going to get to it, and then once I start, I'm going to turn my page, and as I get to this point, I'm going to turn my page. Now, another tip that I want to recommend is when you set your scissors down, you know where your scissors are here. You don't want to look right here where you're at. You want to kind of look where you're going. It's kind of like driving a car. You don't look at the road directly in front of you. You kind of look where you're going. Well, that's what I want you, even walking. When you walk, you don't look straight down. You kind of look ahead to where you're going. Well, that's kind of what you want to do when you're cutting, is to look ahead to where you're going, and then you can adjust, and again, turn your paper instead of moving your scissors. And that way, you don't have as many starts and stops. And yep, just like in a car or when you're walking, sometimes you're going to wreck or you're going to trip and fall, and you'll, have a cut that you don't necessarily want, or cut off a point or something like that. It's no big deal. Remember, there's no accidents. We can make everything workable. So if I were to cut off this point, I could still use this. I could just put a decoration over there. You'd never know the difference. So again, use your whole blade of your scissors to do the job. I mean, we're not saving this part of our scissors for any reason. Once this wears out and we can't sharpen them anymore, we're not going to start all of a sudden cutting down here. So use the whole blade of your scissors when you're cutting. And again, you know where those scissors are, so look where you're going instead of where you are. And I think that'll help you. And sometimes when you go to make a curve or a turn and you're further down on your scissors, you might feel like you don't have as much control. Well, and you'll need to adjust your scissors. Well, sometimes you do, and sometimes you just need to work at it a little bit, practice. The more you do it, the more it's going to look nice. So that was using the big scissors. And again, I think it's important to look where you're going and not exactly where you're at. And these, by the way, are images from G. Kerr, and these right here are images from Shabby Dabby Doodah. And again, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to turn my page. I'm looking where I'm going instead of where I'm at, because I already know where that point of my, where the, this part of my scissors is. So I really want to know where I'm going more. So now, let me just cut that piece off. You can see how nice that turned out just by using the full length of my scissors. So if I use my small ones, I have much more chance of starting and stopping and causing some little issues. Oops, see, I'm automatically wanting to turn my paper instead of my scissors. But this gets a little bit hairy to me when you're trying to use small ones. See, I didn't even get close enough with that because I'm trying to keep adjusting my scissors and I don't get near as clean a cut with it. And again, these scissors are not, well, they will cut the length, but not by much. And I ended up cutting part of that line off because it's hard to see where you're going when you're right up on it. I hope that makes some sense. So let me show you with the butterflies. Alright, so with the small ones, oh, see, I'm wanting to turn my page again. And with our small ones, we tend to always want to work down here instead of up there. And that doesn't, and see, that just kind of, well, let me cut this out and maybe you can see it a little better. This made a point instead of rounding it off because I moved my paper instead of my scissors. And where we tend to mess up a lot of times is when we try to go back and fix it. And when we do, we take too much off or we don't get it rounded exactly right. And sometimes it doesn't make that big of a difference, and sometimes it does. And so you kind of want to be careful. Whereas if I use my big scissors and I move my paper and I'm watching where I'm going instead of where I am, I can kind of get in and out of there. I'm going to try not to cut his little head off, but I might. A lot of times I don't worry about the heads. I just kind of cut them off anyway. I know that sounds bad and mean, but I just do. So if you move your paper instead of your scissors, that is so helpful. Again, with the big scissors, you end up cutting that whole length. I'm going to adjust my scissors because I got to the end. When I get here, I'm going to turn my paper. And I can make this whole length with these scissors, and I end up not cutting off too much of the edge. So I hope all that makes sense. Circles and ellipses seem to be the hardest thing for most people, and they are for me. I can't cut a circle hardly to save my life. But if I use my big scissors, and again, I turn the paper and kind of watch where I'm going instead of where I am, it helps. I'm going to turn that paper, and then I'm not starting and stopping, and I don't end up with really sharp points on the end of my oval here. And I think it's really the most important about starting and stopping. You don't want to start and stop when you're in the middle of a circle, because that's when you end up really kind of messing it up. And I did end up with a little point there. But that way you're not starting and stopping and getting your ends all kind of shades of crooked. I hope that helps. I hope it makes a little bit of sense to you. Use whatever you're the most comfortable with, but I encourage you to practice with your long scissors, to use the whole blade, to learn how to do that. Like I said, we're not saving this in for any reason. Use it. Take advantage of the full length of the scissors. And even you can start practicing with your smaller scissors to use the whole blade of your smaller scissors and learn how to turn your paper a little bit, even using your smaller scissors, and then you can end up going to your bigger scissors. Now, there's going to be some times when you're going to need a point, and these I kind of broke my point off prying something, but sometimes you're going to need a point, and I didn't bring anything that needs a hole. But let's just say I need to cut this hole out, and I'm probably going to use my pokey tool first to make a hole. Let's see if I can do this with my scissors without stabbing myself. So I made a little hole, and then you'll need your little fine tip scissors to go in and cut your hole out. Yeah, I drank a pot of coffee this morning. I'm a little bit shaky. Alright, once I've made a couple of slits, and I can go in there and go around that circle a whole lot easier. So there are times you're going to need your little scissors, and you're going to need a finer point on your scissors to get in, to make holes, to fussy cut, you know, inside of something maybe. But I think for the most part, if you'll learn to move your paper, and if you'll learn to watch where you're going instead of where you are, because you already know where you place this part of your scissors. I think once you learn that, and you practice with that, you're going to be really, really happy with your results, because you're not going to have so many opportunities of starting and stopping, and you know, getting off track by starting and stopping and you know, trying to move your scissors around. I hope it helps. If anybody has any more tips, please leave them down in the comments section. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave those down there as well. I always forget to tell y'all to please subscribe to my channel if you're not a subscriber, and to please hit the thumbs up like button if you enjoyed this or found it helpful. Y'all have a blessed day, and I'm going to try in just a little bit to work on showing you how to do a page setup so your pages look more awesome and inviting, and to, you know, learn how to make focal points and things like that to make your pages not just good but great. You know, I'm not the expert, but I will share with you the knowledge that I have on that. And so I will see y'all later. Thank you for stopping by today. Have a great one. Bye.